Okay, seeing as BlackieRook appears to have completely misunderstood my argument, either deliberately or through his all too apparent lack of intellect, I shall outline what I have said in a video. That way it isn't possible for our American friend to simply delete it because he has no answer to the argument. Firstly, I shall reiterate the points to which BlackieRook has responded in quite such a ludicrous manner. I mean, for a start, how seriously are we going to take someone who purports to be making a serious political point, yet uses the word lol quite so frequently? He makes out in his responses that I am likening the policy of the American right with communism. This is simply not the case. The methods which both use to push their extremist and highly dangerous views, however, are strikingly similar. The American right, BlackieRook included, are demonising foreign countries and telling outright lies about their systems in order to glorify their own means and agendas. There is very little difference between the rubbish spouted by Fox News, which I see BlackieRook is keen to recite almost verbatim in places, and the sort of propaganda shown on North Korean state television. Obviously the content is different, but the methods to which they use are very, very similar. This is the similarity between the American right and communism. It's all about propaganda, all about brainwashing, and very, very little about argument. The USSR did this for decades. That is simply a fact. What Obama and the British stand for is debate. It's free speech. It's the right to have an argument based on the facts. What the American right stand for is inequality, brainwashing, shouting down opposition arguments, manipulation, propaganda, and outright lies told by people clutching Bibles who have just come back from a God Hates Fags rally. And before you all jump on me for being anti-Christian, I am myself a practicing Christian, and if you want an argument about how virtually anyone who claims to be right-wing and Christian is an utter hypocrite, then I am happy to give way. Okay, now the response of BlackieRook's that really made me laugh was the fact that he had the temerity to suggest that a perfectly coherent English sentence does not make sense. I claimed that the NHS was a socialist invention, but not now a socialist institution. Now, most people outside of the United States would understand that to be a perfectly acceptable and indeed understandable sentence. What it means for the benefit of any American meatheads that may be watching this is that when it was founded in 1949, Nye Bevan had socialist ideals. The NHS in 2009, however, is not a socialist institution. This means that the way in which it functions is not in itself overtly socialist. It is perfectly plausible for something to have been founded on certain principles but now not embody them. The US government was a racist institution when it was founded. It supported slavery at the time of its inception. Does the fact it was invented by racists and enslavers mean it still supports that ideology? Of course it doesn't. It would almost be funny if it wasn't so insulting that an intellectually challenged American is daring to criticise the written English of an English person studying the subject at an elite English university. Now, being a large employer does not make something socialist, as you appear to be implying covertly when you state that the NHS is the world's third largest employer. You say it's not a competitor in any sense in the British healthcare market. Well, surely the fact that it's such a large employer shows its success, and thus proves it must be a good thing when people can choose whether or not to have private healthcare. What you have said is similar to branding Walmart and News Corporation International socialists simply because they are large employers. They are competitors. They are just the most successful. So is the NHS. The fact it is government managed is beside the point. There are indeed a shortage of NHS dentists, as you point out in your comment. Yet the fact there are virtually none, as you say, again, is not a fact. It's a lie. It's yet another one of your lies. You claim that capitalism is not in the NHS vocabulary. I wish this was correct, but again, sadly it's not. Sadly, it's yet another thing you say without actually knowing any facts. In the 1980s, Margaret Thatcher, Britain's most right-wing and free-marketeering Prime Minister, introduced something called compulsory competitive tendering into all British public services. That includes the National Health Service. What this means is that cleaning, catering, car parks, portering, postal services, television, phones, internet, all non-medical patient facilities, must all, by law, be contracted out to the company which provides the best price. Is this not the epitome of free market capitalism? Wouldn't a socialist NHS, a nasty, evil, communist behemoth, as some in America seems to be suggesting, have every little bit of it run by the government? It's not. Anybody in the United States who has been watching Republican propaganda and who believes that every single part of the NHS is run by the government and run on taxpayers' money is, well, completely misled by this fantastic Republican propaganda. And it just so happens that the parts of the NHS which are privatised are the parts which come in from the most criticism in the United Kingdom. And, capitalism in the healthcare sector leading to poorer overall standards. It's a shock, that, isn't it? Now, you say, what's this got to do with race? Well, actually, if we're talking about healthcare in the United States, it has an awful lot to do with race. The overwhelming majority of those living in poverty, those who cannot afford health insurance, and those who suffer a poor quality of life in the US are African Americans. It has everything to do with race. Oh, and by the way, stop hurting yourself with words makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So next time you decide to criticise somebody's English, look your own up first. Thank you.